I know. So it's hard for me to come up with a rationalization for it, because fundamentally, the thing about Bray Wyatt, which makes him both intriguing and infuriating, is the fact that he could come up with any bullshit in his head that he thinks is going to be really cool and interesting and dynamic, and we'll just have to go on with it. And at the end of the day, it might be cool and interesting, and might be something that's completely avant-garde and new and different, or it might just be more spooky bullshit. And either way, I don't want to think about it anymore. I just want him away, and I'm happy. And this is just the absolute affirmation of the fact of, thank fuck he didn't end up in AEW.
Creepolini, by the way, instead of Capolini. Thought of one. So, this is something that I've said in the past, and I think that it bears repeating when it comes to why I crap on the Bray Wyatt thing, and people go, "Well, you like Undertaker so much," and it's like, yeah, but there's a difference. It's the same way that it's like, hey, I'm crapping on Black Adam sucked, but I love other superhero movies because there's a difference in quality. I think the big differentiating factor between those two types of characters is Undertaker would cut a promo about somebody and what he's going to do, and it would lead to something. Whereas Bray Wyatt's promos are about concepts that have nothing to do with anything. It's essentially like he's doing slam poetry, kind of. And if you look at his return, they had something interesting with the fact that he's coming back, and they've got all the the other characters are they're kind of people now. And I've been very adamant that I don't think that there should be anybody wrestling underneath those masks and be in a stable, because I think that it's multiple levels of that's not going to work. But that was kind of okay, that's an interesting twist. But where does it lead? And the question's not had an answer yet, because I don't think it necessarily has an answer. I think that they are doing a lot of things for the sake of wouldn't it be interesting if, and you don't need to really do that. If they would have had, at any point of these few weeks, any indication to anybody that's feuding with Bray Wyatt, then you can start to unpack those elements and go, okay, so he's calling out who's on the roster right now that would make sense for this. He's mostly a SmackDown star, so if you limit it to that, and, he's against, I don't know, fucking Shanky, for all sense. It wouldn't make any sense, but still, I'll just go with the name. And he starts talking about all these cryptic things about Shanky. Then you can be like, oh, okay, so he's going after him, and this is the reason why, and where is this going to lead, and, whatever. But he's talking about himself, and you can't have somebody feud with themselves, because this isn't a circle of, talking about your depression and your feelings and all. It's a pro wrestling thing. You have to have an opponent, to quote Stan Hansen. And I like the idea of him against a few people that we haven't gotten yet. We could get a Bray Wyatt versus Karrion Kross feud, and maybe they go more into the Karrion Kross darker stuff, but we're not. And we can get Bray Wyatt against Roman Reigns if he can do something with it, but he's just going out and going hey, it's great to be here, and then Uncle Howdy goes, fuck you, I'm Uncle Howdy, and then that's the end of it. So the only way that makes sense to me is if it's Uncle Howdy versus Bray Wyatt, and Uncle Howdy is somebody else. The only person that makes sense for that to me is Bo Dallas, which it's weird that his brother's playing his uncle. But if they go with that, then you're still dragging your ass, because maybe at this show, Uncle Howdy comes out, and you've got Uncle Howdy standing in the ring, and Bray Wyatt standing in the ring, and the whole hook is supposed to be, aha, see, it's not Bray Wyatt, it is a different person, and that's why he keeps popping up at the same time. Now we're going to show the re-footage of that again on Raw, now we're going to show the footage again on SmackDown, and on SmackDown, he'll cut a promo about how the thing happened, and then it's okay, 4 or 5 fucking weeks. Can they attack each other? Can they do something? Can this lead somewhere?
That's the issue. That's the issue right there. It's the fact that, okay, look, in fairness to Wyatt, it's only been 3 weeks. right? But it's the idea that they keep replaying the full segment on Raw, and then you gotta see it again, and it's, oh my god, what is this? Now, we haven't even gotten into, like, okay, what does he actually say here? Maybe this is where they have Uncle Howdy show up in a ring so you can just get to the point where they're different people. So then you at least know there's a match coming. But if it is just the internal demon of Bray Wyatt coming out again, then what do you do with that?
He can't have a match with himself.
Right. Like, they need to have it be a different person, and not even just like, okay, it's a different body, but he's having a match with himself. No, it needs to be a fully different person. As far as the content for Crown Jewel, I would assume that he's got to have some kind of PTSD moment that last time he was in Saudi, Fiend lost to Goldberg and everything went to shit.
Yeah, I mean, they could go in that way. And that could be, like, even incorporated with the Uncle Howdy thing. Like, maybe Bray Wyatt comes out, says, it's nice to be here. You know, last time I didn't have a really good time when I was in Saudi Arabia. Goldberg kind of kicked my ass and whatever, but I'm trying to make myself better, and whatever. And then, like, the lights go out, and they do all that kind of, hokey type stuff. And then you get, like, the red lights come back on, and now Uncle Howdy's there, and, he's like, again, probably like, fuck you, you killed the world, or whatever he keeps saying. But that'd be great if that's what it is. It's like, yeah, fuck you, and such. But it has to be something like they have to fight. If we're going to get fake Undertaker versus Undertaker from SummerSlam, or we're going to get fake Kane versus Kane, and just apply that to the Bray Wyatt thing, it has to be a match. It can't be an inner struggle, because that's a fucking movie. And yeah, Vince McMahon thinks that you're making movies. It's not the same thing. I don't want the Century and the Void in pro wrestling terms for anybody that follows Marvel and they know those characters. That's the only thing I can hope for at this point. But if I'm going with what I think is going to happen, I think it's going to be the exact same shit that we've been seeing. Bray Wyatt talks, Uncle Howdy pops up on the screen, the lights go out, and that's the end of it. And nothing gets accomplished. And we're back to the, okay, Bray Wyatt, come on, let's get to it. That's my goal.
That was all of our goals.
So that's a segment that's announced. Nothing on the tapings for SmackDown has spoiled anything from that. Maybe they have like a pre-tape thing that they're going to air or whatever, but mostly SmackDown was just sort of like, hey, that's that Rey Mysterio match we were talking about, and so on and so forth. But let's move to another one of these matches here. This is Giant versus Giant, Omos against Braun Strowman. And I'm trying to think of another time that there were two people as big as these two against each other. Because
Khali versus Big Show.
That's the only other one that I can imagine, because the height that these two are at, there's not many people that match up to that. Big Show and Khali are, and Giant Gonzalez are the only ones that I can really think of. I mean, Commander Aziz technically too, but he's never really gone up against anybody except for Omos. And the level that, Braun Strowman is a former Universal Champion, and Omos has been like relatively booked strong. He's had his weaker moments, but the fact that we haven't seen it before makes me go, hey, look, it might be a train wreck. But we haven't seen it before, and it's two giants, so I'm interested.
I think it's funny that we couldn't get you on board with Bobby Lashley versus Omos at WrestleMania, but you're on board with this.
You know why this is as baseline as it can be?
Because they're big.
Braun Strowman's bigger.
You are the definitive WWE fan. This match is fine. They're doing it in the perfect setting. I think doing it in Saudi works. It's going to be a lot of oohs and ahs. And sadly, I think Strowman wins. And where do you go with Omos?
two, like one slightly decent and one crappy big guy wrestler are going to have a somewhere range between a halfway decent and utterly terrible wrestling match. And I have no interest in seeing it.
What do you think the spot is of the match?
Shoulder block. What if that's all it is? It's just a series of shoulder blocks?
It'll probably be the shooting star press.
Okay.
No, I think, the spot is that they're both going to, step up to each other for a while, and then they're going to run at each other with shoulder blocks, and they're both going to stand there for a little while, and then one of them's going to knock the other one down with a shoulder block, and everyone's going to go crazy. And then, they're going to do really plodding wrestling moves and holds for 3 minutes or so, and then Omos is going to find his way on the outside of the ring, and Braun Strowman's going to run at him, because that's all that Braun Strowman does, is run at people. And then eventually Omos is going to hit a big slam, and Braun Strowman will kick out, and then Braun Strowman will hit a big slam, and Omos will be pinned, and then it's over.
That's probably almost exactly how this is going to play out. I'll take you one more. The one who's going to do the knockdown, Omos is going to knock down Strowman with the feats of shoulder block strength, so that way when Strowman does the run around the ring, that's when he knocks Omos down, and they go, okay, now it's an even...
I mean, I wish they were still using the train sound, because then you could say he got ahead of steam, and you could do the chugga.
I mean, I tell you, you're saying, we've never seen this match before. I feel like I've seen this match a million times over, just with slightly different big men.
Oh, that's true. No denying that, yeah.
So it doesn't appeal to me that it's just two different big men that I'm seeing fight. It's like... I'm done with giant. I mean, some people really like giant versus giant, and at the end of the day, if you do, then more power to you. It's not for me, and so this match is not for me either.
That's why I said I think they're doing it at the right show, because...
Oh yeah, this definitely appeals to an audience that likes this larger than life atmosphere, and I think at the end of the day, there are a huge number of people that just like to see giants collide, And so it has an appeal, so I'm not saying that they're wrong for doing this match. They're just saying that if they wanted to appeal to an audience of me, then they failed with this match.
Yeah, I mean, if you're more on the Kurt Angle side, this is not the match for you.
No, I imagine that they are going to do something because the last time, it's not really Big Show and Carly, but Strowman versus Big Show is the last kind of real giant versus giant thing they did. Although they did do, almost... Commander Aziz, didn't they?
Yeah.
So they've done that, which was bad. So, but Strowman versus Big Show, they did do things where Strowman nips up and stuff like that. So I'm sure what I kind of just want out of this, just for my own perverse pleasure, is them to do that Big Show Kane match where they decided to do kip ups and float overs and
drop kicks
arm drags for like 7 minutes. If they did that, then I'm just like, okay. They'll still probably be crap, but at least it was entertaining crap.
I've got an idea of how this can work better.
Honor the belt?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to work too. You take more than these two big guys, and you put them in a big buffet.
Alright, I'm gonna move us along here, because for a show that we all don't really seem all that enthused about, we are spending a lot of time on it. Braun Strowman wins all the way around, right?
I'm going Strowman as well. I hope that that's the case, because I can see more in them doing like Braun Strowman against Karrion Kross and Braun Strowman against Bray Wyatt or whoever they want to go with next. I hope that's not the case. I want Braun Strowman to be in a better position than Omos, because I think Omos is kind of just petering out.
Yeah, I'll go with Strowman. He's got the more name value attached to him, and he at least has a track record of being able to perform well in main event matches with other people, whereas Omos has basically a zero track record. If you can't have a good match with AJ Styles, you're literally up shit's creek without a paddle. So yeah, I think that Strowman should get the victory.
Now there's your gimmick for that up shit's creek without a paddle match, and you have to find the paddle and you win.
And that's the evolution of the swamp match.
That's where he's been this whole time.
That'll be the Braun Strowman versus Bray Wyatt in the Schitt's Creek. Find the paddle for the Schitt's Creek match.
You go on Google Maps and you're like, where is that Wyatt Swamp in the compound? And it's right next to Schitt's Creek.
They fight in Schitt's Creek in a paddle on a pole match.
Just real quick, breaking news. They did, in fact, add the women's tag team title rematch to this card.
Okay.
Did that just get announced?
That went up on Fightful 6 minutes ago.
Huh.
I'll double check Twitter just to be safe, but I assume...
they announced it around 4:13.
I mean, Fightful fairly trustworthy, right?
Yeah.
Bro?
I think so.
Yeah, that is kind of like, alright, if you're going to add something to there, you're not really enticing me all that much. Like, if the belts change hands again, it's just, gotcha, another one of those, hot potatoes. And if they don't, well, then why am I watching the rematch from Monday Night Raw?
Yeah, they announced it 31 minutes ago from WWE's Twitter, so WWE.com.
I guess I figure if they're going to be there to have the whole, brawl...
Well, Alexa's super over in Saudi Arabia as well. Like, she was, like, the biggest star in that, the match at Elimination Chamber they had, so I think that, I mean really, who cares? I know it's kind of my terminology throughout the entire thing, but it doesn't really matter who's holding the titles, because if it's all leading to War Games anyway, it doesn't really matter which one of the two teams is holding the tag titles at any point. They can trade titles every single week. Yeah, they can trade titles every single week between now and War Games. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Shout out to Asuka for being the first woman to have 3 title reigns with 3 different partners, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Kyrie and Charlotte.
Charlotte,
Alexa.
Yeah, Alexa's a 3-time champion now as well, so.
It's almost like those belts still are kind of pointless, huh? They're not doing all that great.
Nope.
For anybody who says that, the Triple H regime doesn't get any kind of flack or something, that same criticism. If it sucks, it sucks. Good things are good, bad things are bad. And that's not something that I think is going to be a game changer. I don't think anybody that's been on the fence about watching Crown Jewel is now going to look at this women's tag team title match and go, you sold me, okay, now that's the difference maker. But more women on the card. That's a victory, I guess. So.
I'm glad they announced it while we were still here.
Yeah, instead of waiting until 20 minutes later from we're done. I'm going to go with you know what? No, I'm going to go with the belts changing hands.
Yeah, I'm going with Damage Control leaves Saudi Arabia with titles.
Yeah, I could see them doing that to counterbalance the Bianca Belair thing. Maybe they could do some sort... That match should happen before the Raw Women's title match, and then you just have all 6 women brawl, because that's all they do. So.
I'll have to add that all across the board. I hate when they do that. I gotta be like, I gotta add 9 predictions things now. But, whatever. We got a steel cage match here. Drew McIntyre against Karrion Kross. Normally, the steel cage is supposed to be there to keep somebody out from interfering, like how Scarlett interfered at the Extreme Rules event, and normally that ends up being more of a detriment, because then they spend so much time worried about how the person's trying to get in, and then the person's able to capitalize, and then they do something anyway, and they climb over the cage, or the cage door just happens to be open, and then they can come through or whatever. But I actually think that right now I'm leaning more towards Drew McIntyre winning. I think that at the very least it makes sense to me to have him win, so that way he can be one of the stronger people that can lead into that War Games match. But if he's not involved in that, then maybe they just go with Karrion Kross for the sake of getting some strong victories over McIntyre and kind of reestablishing himself. I don't know. I'm going McIntyre, and this is it'll be fine. Nothing special.
Fine is probably an overstatement. Their match at Extreme Rules was so dull. It was so milk toast. It's as vanilla as it gets. And I know that Drew McIntyre can have great matches, so it has been the case for a while, it all seems to boil down to the fact that Karrion Kross is not. He's not very good. He's not very good in the ring. Like, he has a presence about him. He has a look about him which makes you feel like he should be a lot better than he is. He should be pushed towards the main event. And then he does these matches, and there's absolutely nothing to them. And I imagine that this will be pretty much the same way. It'll be two big guys throwing each other around a cage for a little while. And if they have any sense, they should just have Drew McIntyre win and move on, really. Because there is a place for Karrion Kross, and I'm sure there are other people they can feud with. He's just not on McIntyre's level as like someone who can both have the presence and the look of a main eventer, and then also deliver in terms of quality matches and promos. Kross just isn't that as much as Triple H seemingly wants him to be. So I would have Drew McIntyre win, and I hope that's the decision they take, because that'll be my prediction.
If the Neville level is 77, what is the Drew McIntyre level? High 80s.
I mean, yeah, it's probably high 80s. Yeah, it's probably high 80s. I'd say. I'd say he could be bordering on 90. Kross is down in the, I'd say, 50s.
For anybody who's wondering, one of the reasons why I tend not to do superstar scores for people that are still active, because they can add or detract from things. But if we ever do a Pac/Neville superstar scores, it's just going to be 77. We're not going to fucking go and avoid the joke. It's just going to be, how do we balance out to 77 on that one? So. What are your thoughts on this, Rob? You got Kross, you got McIntyre. Who do you think's winning?
I think if McIntyre wins, you gotta do another match, because they'll be even Steven. And then I don't really have an interest in seeing a third match. This is a nice gimmick match for Saudi Arabia. This crowd's gonna love it. McIntyre should win, because babyfaces should win big matches like this. I do think McIntyre will move on, because I think McIntyre will focus all of his energy on War Games. And Kross will not be in War Games.
There are still a handful of people that could be on either of these War Games teams. The only one being, out of the four that we're going to get, the Bloodline's pretty much just, I guess, Bloodline. But, there's the Damage Control and Nikki, and question for maybe Rhea. Maybe the spot goes to somebody else. I don't know. There's, hey, it's Alexa and Asuka and Bianca, and for a little bit some other people like Aaliyah and Raquel and Shotzi have been a part of that. So you got your people that you can pick from, and Candice is another one that could be in that. So more than 5 for that. And for the anti-Bloodline crew, Kevin Owens seems like he should be a lock. Drew McIntyre makes a lot of sense. He's feuded with them for a while. But the Brawling Brutes are there, and they got to do the Brawling Brutes and 2 other people. Maybe they're going to go with Matt Riddle. Maybe they're going to go with somebody else. I don't know. But there's a chance that maybe Drew McIntyre is not involved in that. And maybe they do have other plans for, some other supplemental matches at Survivor Series that are not Raw versus SmackDown. Or, maybe they are even still going to do a Raw versus SmackDown thing. They still haven't said that that's not happening, just that it's not going to be the focal point. And maybe we get a Survivor Series tag team elimination thing and the War Games thing or something. But if you're going to have Drew McIntyre be one of the frontline people going up against the Bloodline, if he loses this feud with Karrion Kross, I think that just kind of makes him a little bit less worthwhile to be on that team. He's still Drew McIntyre, so it's it is what it is. But hell, maybe they're not even going to do the Bloodline. Maybe it's going to be more of the Judgment Day and such, because...
Man, come on.
You never know.
Don't even waste your energy on that.
You never know. They've done weird things at Survivor Series in the past. This is the first time we're going to get War Games instead of the Raw and SmackDown stuff for the past 5 years. But that's another matches on the card. The OC against Judgment Day. Rhea Ripley may or may not pop up. And if she does, I think that we're going to get Raquel popping up to kind of balance out the scales. But You got Carl Anderson, you got Luke Gallows. Carl Anderson's not going to be wrestling for New Japan instead. And AJ Styles against your guys over from the Judgment Day, Dominic Mysterio, Damian Priest, and Finn Balor. And nothing is on the line and nothing matters, so really flip a coin and it's going to change absolutely nothing with this feud because they're just going to continue to feud. So the OC wins because.
I don't think we get Rhea beating up men. Just a shot.
What was that? You were kind of garbled.
I don't think we get Rhea Ripley beating up any guys on this one.
Probably not.
Just a shot in the dark. But I think that Judgment Day wins just because they don't want to seem to give anything to the OC, even though the OC are kind of over in Saudi because they win things like the gauntlets and the trophies and all that, so maybe they do give it to the OC.
Yeah, I think that, well, the traditional pattern, it was broken a little bit in Extreme Rules, but the traditional pattern for the Judgment Day is that they win most of the matches on Raw and then they lose the pay-per-view. So I can see that pattern continuing because they might just want to have the OC, the babyfaces get the victory. You doesn't really lose anything because Judgment Day have beaten like Carl Anderson pretty much every single week on repeat, it feels like, since they showed up back on Raw. So they won't lose anything by suffering a defeat here. You could, as I say, either have Raquel Gonzalez or whoever this equalizer is they've got for Rhea Ripley to show up and take her out of the equation, so that will allow the OC to get the victory. But either way, I'll just go with babyfaces winning. It just makes more sense if you want to elongate this and not just say, yeah, Judgment Day just better. Let's move on.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and agree with you. Babyfaces win.
It's one of those matches that really just does not matter. So.
I mean, that's literally the whole card, bro.
For the most part. I mean, at least when it comes to like the main event, there's a title on the line. So it's something. But here's a match that Calvin's most interested in, but it ultimately still really doesn't matter, which is Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar. And my glass half full, guy doesn't watch anything but the pay-per-view point of view would be, oh, look at that. That's a big name against a big name. Two big guys, and that should be kind of fun because they've had their MMA backgrounds and such. I understand. But then the glass half empty guy who actually watches all the shows and analyzes things and has a job about that goes, for the third time this year, we're getting these two against each other, and this time there's even less going on.
For the second time this year, because they only fought at the Royal Rumble.
They won.
First of all. And
they didn't wrestle at day one. Well, they wrestled in a 5-way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Brock Lesnar didn't touch him. He couldn't get him. That was or Lashley couldn't get Lesnar. It was one way or the other. They didn't have them touch.
I still feel like you don't have a belt on the line. There's no number one contender spot. There's no gimmick. There's no stipulation. If Lashley wins, they'll probably drag this out and do another thing for the sake of it anyway, just because Lesnar probably is going to get the ultimate win. And if Lesnar wins, then it's probably the end of it, and they were just going, how about those two? I really
If Lesnar wins, if Lesnar wins, they're 1-1. So I think that you do get another match somewhere. But I think it'll be fun. This angle was a really fun angle, and I'm just going to address this now. If my audio has been shit this entire podcast, I apologize. We have been trying to work at it, but it's just not working.
If you've been hearing me typing, that's me going, yeah, we're still having this issue.
Yeah, so apologies for that. That aside, I think this has been the most fun thing Brock Lesnar's done in a while. I like when Brock Lesnar's just like, yeah, fuck you, I want to fight. And then the other guy's like, okay, fuck you, I want to fight too. And they fight. It's like...
It's the opposite of the Bray Wyatt.
I'd much rather that than the Bray Wyatt stuff at this point. Like, it works for me. Will it be a finisher fest? Sure. Will Saudi Arabia completely eat it up? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Brock Lesnar wins. I think they have a rubber match somewhere down the road, and I'm holding out hope for a WrestleMania fight pit, but I won't hold my breath.
Yep, so, I mean, this match is the one that I'm most interested in just because the two names involved, and they're both great names, and they're just going to beat the shit out of each other for about 10 minutes, and that'll be great. So, yeah, it's going to be a bit finisher spammy, but these are two guys that will literally throw most men around like ragdolls, colliding in the middle of the ring. And, yeah, we saw it at the Royal Rumble, but I think that there was... I don't know, there was something missing on that one. I think just now, because it's just these two, there's no alignments, there's no MVP involved, there's no championship on the line or anything. It's just two guys who fancy a fight with each other and they're just going to beat the shit out of each other. And that is what I watch wrestling for the most part to see. And I think that these two will probably have one of, if not the best match on the card, just for sheer, like, entertainment value of, yeah, if you like to see like a 300-pound man get suplexed around the ring multiple times, then I haven't got the match for you. And I think that Lesnar will win because it is Saudi Arabia, and Lesnar is tantamount to like a god in Saudi Arabia from a WWE perspective, because he wins most of the time and he's a larger-than-life character. But if it was me, and again, maybe they do a rubber match either at WrestleMania or just somewhere down the road, I think you have Lashley come out top on this feud. Just because if you had let's say you did have Lashley win this match, that's a ready-made challenger for Roman Reigns next. That's Bobby Lashley. Like, cause you're not going to do Brock and Roman again unless unless it's the fact, it's a new era now, we've got a new company in charge, so we're going to do Brock and Roman right this time. Instead, like in a new creative regime. But I think you have Lashley win, and then he is ready-made to not necessarily be the one to take the title of Roman, but he's as credible a challenger as you could possibly have at that point.
Just for like a Royal Rumble match or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. And realistically, we don't talk about this much, but we never really know when Brock will just be done. Like, maybe he puts over Lashley and goes away forever. Who knows?
I'm still holding out hope that instead of this stretching out and being another match at the, next pay-per-views and all that going forward, and then, hey, look at that, it's WrestleMania, and we're going to do it again, especially if they end up saying, we're going to do it again, and there's no fight pit or something, because they'll be like, God damn it, stop it with the whole, that match, but you're saying it again. It's never going to be a point of view that I'm going to have is like, yay, rematch with nothing else. I am still holding out hope that we're going to get something like Logan Paul against Brock Lesnar instead for Mania, which makes me go, probably Brock will just win this, and if that is the plan, which there's been no indication, of course, to really go for, it's just me thinking important star against important star, that makes a lot of sense. Then I think that Brock probably does end up winning with that, and they just move on, and Bobby Lashley just takes a hit for the sake of it. But if by any means the goal is to position Bobby Lashley in a better spot, to have like Lashley versus Roman at Royal Rumble, or to do anything along those lines that you would think would make sense. I mean, Roman and Bobby Lashley is a match that makes a lot of sense. Then I think that he has to win, but I am leaning a little bit more towards the idea that that's not going to happen. I don't think we're going to get Lashley Reigns until after WrestleMania. So if you've got, War Games is coming up, and that's going to book up Roman for a while, and there's nothing in December, and you don't have day one, realistically, we're looking at Roman Reigns is going to pop up every 3 to 4 weeks, because he only really ever shows up once every 2-3 weeks or so. And then the War Games match is a thing. There's no title on the line there. The Royal Rumble, he'll probably defend the belt. And I think it might be against Sami Zayn.
Sami Zayn for Chamber in Montreal.
Could be Chamber. Oh, yeah, it's in Montreal. That's true. Yeah, maybe they do that. But you could get away with having the Elimination Chamber, where Roman's up against multiple people there. And it could be Sami Zayn at Royal Rumble, and then it's Sami Zayn is in the Elimination Chamber with Roman and with whoever, 4 other people, probably Drew McIntyre, maybe somebody like Karrion Kross, and et cetera, et cetera. But that's kind of where I'm thinking now, and I'm like, okay, Brock probably comes back to win a match, and that's probably in his contract a little bit. Like, well, I'm not going to come back just to lose for the sake of it. What the fuck, So I'm going Brock Lesnar winning this match, and knock on wood, they've got a better idea when it comes to Mania instead of just these two again.
I'll go Brock to get the victory as well. Even if though I would prefer it to be Lashley and you start building him up immediately for Roman for a match either at Survivor Series or Royal Rumble, I think that the likelihood is Brock gets the win here, and then you've got a reason to do another match between these two down the road.
I'll go Brock as well because I think there will be a rubber match.
Alright, and I already said basically what I think is going to happen when it comes to this, but the main event is the undisputed WWE Universal Championship match between Roman Reigns and his challenger Logan Paul. I cannot, under any circumstances, see Logan Paul winning this belt, especially to derail this big push that Roman Reigns is on. I think the match will be kind of fun, actually, and it's not going to be great, but it'll be probably a fun segment, and it ends with Roman Reigns retaining.
I don't like that this entire match is leading up to one punch. It's just leading up to a spot where Logan Paul actually gets like a solid right in on Roman, stays down for the 2.9 count, and then Roman probably gets up and smashes him. It'll be fine, but God, do I wish we were doing anything else. No, I'm serious. Roman Reigns finally turns heel during the thick of the pandemic. And even though he's had good matches along the way, all anyone's going to remember about the last 2 years, probably 2.5, getting up to WrestleMania with hopefully The Rock. Because, by the way, even though we're all assuming, that's not set in stone yet. So all anyone's going to remember is, wasn't Sami Zayn great during that time? And yes, the segments are good, but I still feel like it's at the detriment of not having a champion on half of the programming. And I'm just getting to the point where I'm like, oh, fuck. If you have him beat Rock, who beats him? And then if you don't have him beat Rock, oh my God, you're telling me the only person capable of doing anything is The Rock? Where do we go from there? So I'm not super enthusiastic going into this.
So Roman at this point has become the most interesting that he's been for a while for me, and it's all thanks to Sami Zayn. And it's gotten to the point where I mean, obviously you don't do this 'cause you want to make money, but if it was just a pure creative endeavour, my recommendation would be, scrap any plans you had with The Rock. Sami Zayn is beating Roman for the title at WrestleMania. That is the story. That is the inbuilt story. You finally have a challenger that can't match Roman physically, but in terms of just crowd support and getting people invested, Sami Zayn, as has been the case for ever since he joined NXT all those years ago, is the perfect underdog babyface to take down Roman Reigns. So that's the story. If you want to have Rock, like him beat The Rock at WrestleMania, that's totally fine, and then have Sami Zayn win it like the following month, then by all means. But he's the guy. He's the guy to beat Roman for the title. This Logan Paul definitely isn't. And despite the fact that I have conceded and will continue to concede the fact that Logan Paul is kind of ready-made to be a WWE superstar. Like, he has everything that he needs, really, to be he's already got an inbuilt following. He's very capable in the ring. He's got good mannerisms. He's a heel, but he'll make it work. Realistically, this is a good crowd to put him in front of because they probably don't know who he is, or don't know as well who he is, and so we'll just treat him as the babyface, or they'll just treat Roman as a babyface and they'll just have fun with it. Because But the whole story, as Rob said, is it's revolving around, at one point, Logan Paul is going to punch Roman Reigns and get a 2 count off of it. And that's kind of, yeah, it's fine. Like, the whole story is built around the fact that Roman isn't taking Logan Paul seriously because he's had 2 matches. And realistically, he shouldn't take Logan Paul seriously because he's had 2 matches. But they're going to feed that into the fact that he's going to get one lucky shot in on Roman, and that will, that will throw him off a little bit, and so Roman will have to just pick it back up, Superman punch him and spear him, and this will probably all be wrapped up in about 7 or 8 minutes and be one of the easiest paydays Roman Reigns has ever got.
For that matter.
Oh yeah, for Logan Paul definitely as well, I'm sure. Logan's had to work harder for paydays than this before, so. But yeah, it's a name at the very least. It's a name taking on Roman Reigns. It's not a name that's in any way credible from a wrestling standpoint, but in terms of just actual following, then if that's what you want, then that's what you get in this match. So stay tuned for. Realistically, stay tuned for WrestleMania when you have both Paul brothers probably winning the tag team titles.
I'm still hoping it's Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, but
Sammy's going to win the world titles.
All right.
Well, if he were booking that way, then yeah.
So let's talk about that real quick, because I was thinking myself, as I was saying, that I realized, this entire Roman run, peak Roman, is going to be remembered for these Sami Zayn segments were iconic. And if this was another time, and quite frankly, if there was another belt, I would have Sami Zayn beat Roman Reigns, because we've seen the Yes Movement, we've seen Kofi Mania. You can do this. Can you have him be the one and only champion in WWE? Probably not. And I think that's the one thing holding them back. But I do think that there is a world where they could just go, hey, fuck it. Let's go with Sami. I wouldn't be against it.
I wouldn't be against it. Sami Zayn's great. But I don't think it's going to end up happening. And
no, probably not, but we can dream.
Yeah, I think at the very least we are all going Roman Reigns retains here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the crown jewel is just gonna walk in, punch his ticket and walk out pretty much.
The only way I could see Logan Paul winning is if they were desperate to be like, you see, we're doing title changes for the sake of title changes, and that's not necessarily what you want in your company. But that's that.
So, of course, we will figure out a lot of this stuff when the time comes, and we get to this on, in a couple days when we get into Saturday afternoon. I'm forgetting exactly when it starts. I think it's 11. But, we'll be doing our live coverage on Smarkoutmoment.com. We'll be having the post-show immediately afterwards, so make sure that you are subscribed to the YouTube channel and you have those email alerts set up and everything like that. That way you get the message that we are up on there, then you can tune in and listen to our immediate thoughts afterward. If we're like, oh my god, this is terrible, or oh, this is great, or whatever it might be. Maybe it's another one of those instances where it was like, oh my god, Crown Jewel sucked. I highly doubt it, but it is what it is. So over the next few days, if there are any updates, we will address them on the hot tags on Friday. And there will be updates on smarkoutmoment.com. I'll have all my stuff on EWN and BR up there, so follow them. Make sure that you are going to smarkoutmoment.com and checking out all the Facebook, Twitter, and such at smarkoutmoment. Go to fanboysanonymous.com and check out whatever is happening over there. And go to amangotree.com and see a collection of links, all including those and unrelated things and my personal accounts and such. Very handy-dandy little list that's going on there, and you can find is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another pay-per-view point edition of the Smarkoutmoment Smack Talk podcast. It's time to talk about Crown Jewel coming up this weekend. We're going to run down the card, give you all the preview stuff that we normally do here, a list of the matches, the predictions on who's going to win, and so on and so forth. I am Tony Mango. I've got with me Robert DeFelice.
I'm going howdy, everybody.
And I've got Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And I've got some interesting topics to talk about for this one, which we didn't see coming until we started looking up some stuff. So we're going to get into some politics, and we're going to get into all the matches that we're talking about and everything like that. So we want to know what you have to say about these topics, and we, of course, encourage you to drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you are over there on YouTube, then make sure that you do all the good stuff that you normally do for any other YouTube channel that you support. There's that like button, there's a subscribe button, ring that little notification bell. That way, especially, that you get email alerts for when we go live for our pay-per-view point post shows and anything else we do in the future. We've gotten some positive responses back from the idea of maybe doing those mock draft things live. I don't know if we would do that on a regular basis live, but it's something that, at least with like maybe the randomizers, we might do live. Maybe we'll do the regular mock drafts live, but of course, like the pay-per-view cards, that doesn't seem like that's necessarily a live type thing. But we're trying to figure out some ways to make that a little bit more fun for you guys. And if you want to join us for any of those, they typically happen in the afternoons, but if you're able to, then you get that little email that says we're going live for something. If maybe you sneak off at work and you put that on or something, then keep that in mind. But also, if you want to help us out on the monetary side of things when it comes to that stuff, be on the lookout for that little join button that's on there on YouTube. And that gives you access to the same tiers as the Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/smarkoutmoment, you'll see all the lists just the same. You got the Darkcast, you got the Pick Your Poison tier. Currently thinking that the Darkcast for this month may or may not be the pay-per-view cards of that mock draft that we did. It's going to kind of depend on some scheduling things. Do we have time to do two things, or do we only have time for one, etc.? But there's also that little thanks button if you just want to be like, hey, this is kind of like a super chat, but I can't join the super chats. So here's $2. Thanks, guys, for this is a great episode of something. All that stuff is great. And also, there are Redbubble and TeePublic designs and merchandise options that you can pick up to, pick up something and actually have a tangible thing to hold when you're getting like some t-shirts or stickers or different phone cases and all sorts of things. Redbubble in particular has like a laundry list of just random products, like types of hats that you can get, or you got, A-line dresses that you can take these designs for. Every once in a while, I get a little thing where instead of just a mug or like a hoodie or something, I'll get a notice that somebody bought like a doormat or whatever that has like the cheap pop design on it. And I'm always wondering, like, if you're one of those people, I would love to see like the shower curtain hanging up that says Smarkoutmoment. Like, take a picture of it and send it to me, send a tweet or something. I think that'd be great. Maybe with you, not necessarily in it, but kind of depends. So anything like that, of course, is awesome. We want to thank you for all your support in whatever way that it is, and that includes just listening to this episode. So thank you for being here. So Crown Jewel, let's get into that with our 7 matches that we have currently announced and our segment that we have announced that isn't going to be a match, or it could turn into one, who knows. And in typical fashion, I like to start this off with the question of what's missing from the card. We know, of course, certain people are always going to be missing. You're not going to see Sami Zayn, for instance, pop up on this, and people that are injured are not going to pop up. But there is still room for another match or two to be added to the card, and I'm wondering if you guys have any ideas of what you could see, what you would like to see. Do you think that we're going to get something in here? Question marks. What do you think?
So I have no real interest to see any matches added to the card unless they're going to give Damage Control their tag titles back. But I would like to see some segments, some pre-taped segments of Sami Zayn out and about with Jey Uso trying to make him more Usi. Since he can't be on the card, he's the most over thing on the company. I think he should be on this show somehow.
How do you really do that, though?
Yeah, but like I said, just do some pre-tape segments.
Well, I probably still wouldn't want to see it. Remember how they did with like the women at first, where it was like you couldn't even run a promotional video package with the women that were on screen.
Yeah, and then Carmella was drinking water, and people went nuts.
Calvin, you think that they are going to add any extra matches to this card?
Recent track record in terms of the number of matches they're putting on their premium live events or any indication, then no, probably not.
There aren't too many.
Typically around about 6 or 7 matches nowadays.
Yeah, and I think that they can kind of get away with it if they, they've got a few things on here that, like, that's the draw, essentially.
And I presume they're less inclined to put Mansoir on this card now.
Well, it's funny because that is something that's missing from this is the first Triple H Saudi Arabia show. And, of course, he's going to do some things differently. Maybe he'll announce that referees have names nowadays. And certain people will be brought back, and certain ideas will be tweaked, and characters will be changed and all. But there's no way of knowing if this is his idea or just a happenstance thing. This is the first show that we've gotten that doesn't have a gimmick for it. We had the greatest Royal Rumble, the biggest Battle Royal, the Crown Jewels World Cup tournaments. There was the regular World Cup and the tag team one. Yeah. The 2-week mountain trophy, whatever that thing was, that gauntlet match. That was like, what was the point of that?
Undertaker won that.
Yeah, that's at the last second that happened, and then we got the Queen's Crown and the King of the Ring. So there's been something for every one of these, and this one doesn't have it. Because you can't really say, like, steel cage. Because it's not, like, the biggest steel cage match, or, the longest 6-woman tag, or, like one of those things. They don't have anything for this card, and I'm very curious, we'll probably almost never know, if that was something like Triple H said, look, these gimmicks are stupid. Nobody really cares for them. It's not really drawing anything. The Saudi Arabia audience is going to be there, and it's a paid show anyway, so if the prince isn't necessarily requesting it, then maybe we just don't put our effort into something that doesn't matter, because who's really going to be like, I was on the fence about watching this card, but the fact that you said it's the longest gauntlet match, and you're going to have 40 people in this gauntlet match, it's kind of face value, And this is the second, I think, event without Mansoor. Pretty sure he wasn't on the last one. And that might have been the first one. But, even the last time we had Elimination Chamber. Nothing on this one. And I don't think that they're going to announce that at the last minute, because we already know what happens on SmackDown. So, unless they are planning on some completely random Twitter post that's just like, by the way, we're throwing a battle royal in there, and it's going to be some, everybody that we can possibly get to go there, which is another topic we're going to talk about. I don't think we're going to get any kind of gimmick things, but there could potentially be another match added, maybe. Though the fact that Monday Night Raw happened and most of the matches that I thought could have been added to the card didn't get added, I think we're at this point where this is probably locked in the way that it is.
I mean, what do they got? The first WWE Women's Last Man Standing match? Or Last Woman Standing match? That was dumb.
Yeah, but it's, the first time ever, technically, but diminishing returns.
Yeah, but that's still something special, and you don't need to cram a phony baloney gauntlet on the card if you don't have to.
You win the phony baloney trophy. Sponsored by Oscar Mayer. Yeah, but we didn't get, like, Gargano and The Miz or Loomis or...
Are you really upset about that, though?
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, no. But that match wasn't added, so the fact that they didn't add that on Raw makes me think that they're probably not going to add it, right?
Also, Rob, just to correct you there, this is the second WWE Women's Last Man Standing match after Becky and Charlotte Flair at Evolution.
Oh, right on. Cool. That's awesome. And I'm totally good with that. I thought that's what they were trying to sell this match on, but if it's not, I'm good with that.
If it's at least in the Vince McMahon era, they would have tacked on, well, it's the first last woman standing match in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Between these two. Yeah, no advancement in the feud for, say, something with Baron Corbin, nothing for Austin Theory here. Edge isn't returning to pop up and just be like, that's one of the draws, Edge is there. There's no, they could have added a couple different people in here, but...
Sure, they could have shoehorned Goldberg on the card, but I think it's good that they didn't, keep it as basic as possible.
Yeah, so that is seemingly like the card that we're getting here, and there's some interesting stuff and some stuff that's really just complete filler and a repeat and crap that, we're going to get into. But one question mark outside of the card, and, any additions to that, is if we're going to have any subtractions to the card, because every time they go to Saudi Arabia, and I'm not too surprised based off of the way that, the climate is in this kind of region and all, there seems to be an issue, like right beforehand. Right now, today, this is a thing going on, around like 1 o'clock or so, this was announced, we're recording this around like 3:40. Saudi Arabia and the United States are on high alert after a warning for an imminent Iranian attack. I don't know too much about it, but intelligence is kind of being announced that something might happen with Tehran wants to distract from local protests, and that's not good, for a multitude of reasons. You think that there's going to be anything that comes about from this of people going, you know what, I really don't want to go over there, I don't feel safe, and we have like adjustments to the card, or the WWE ends up even going like, look, it's not safe for any of us to go, so we're going to pull this and we're going to do something else?
It's kind of hard to predict, and we're kind of not in the best position to do it.
I wouldn't say kind of, I say definitely we're not.
We are completely out of the loop in terms of being able to predict whether this will happen. I would hope that this stuff doesn't happen at all. That's kind of the ideal scenario. I mean, the ideal scenario is that they stop taking this corrupt institution's money and get out of Saudi Arabia for good, but we're kind of well past that point at this point. So I guess the hope is that they keep tabs on what is happening in the region, and even if there is a hint of a possibility that there could be this major attack from Iran onto Saudi Arabia and into prominent positions, then they don't risk the well-being of their independent contractors.
I'm glad you used that phrase instead of saying their employees or whatever.
We're not political experts in any way, but it doesn't sound good, and hopefully they're able to get in and get out as quickly as possible, and this doesn't cause any major issues for the talent or their families or anyone, quite frankly.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about anything like that one time. I forget what show was it. Was Super Showdown maybe? Where was the plane's not allowed to leave for question mark reasons, and it's not a big deal. It's just that we might be completely held hostage here and all. Like that stuff isn't setting a great precedent for that, and I'm surprised that still is a thing where they're like, I'm just gonna re-up this deal and it'll be fine, water under the bridge. I would look at that and go, no.
Well, I mean, you say that, but then even more people who then leaked a lot of the information about what happened on that plane are actually now willingly going back to Saudi Arabia as part of this show. So money talks. It's all about money.
Everybody's got a price. Wise man said that.
I mean, it's concerning, and I feel like some of the people that may have leaked that may be people that aren't with the company anymore, but I do also think that Gallows and Anderson were on that plane, or were supposed to be on that plane, so there you go. But As of right now, this is from the Wall Street Journal. It says Saudi officials said Iran is poised to carry out attacks on both the kingdom and Erbil, Iraq, in an attempt to distract attention from domestic protests that have roiled the country since September. The White House National Security Council said it was concerned about the warnings and ready to respond if Iran actually carried out an attack.
Hey, can we go one day without another crisis?
When they say they're prepared, they're not planning on actually sending the superstars into battle, are they?
I mean, who's stronger than WWE superstars?
They're gonna do a tribute to the troops type thing where it's like, surprise, surprise, actually the people that we're sending aren't like Ridge Holland and so on and so forth. It's actually John Cena, Hulk Hogan, the Patriot.
Oh, you don't need any of those people. You have the monster of all monsters booked on this show.
I will say, like, I hope that it definitely isn't the plan, but if it was, I think it's about time we put Hulk Hogan back on some of these shows.
I mean, if anybody's gonna
save us from Iran, isn't it Hulk Hogan?
If it's not him, it's Mr. America.
Yes, there you go.
Well, when it all comes crashing down and it hurts inside, then we'll find out what happens. But